What is going on, guys? Dayton here, aka Dr. Autoflower, back at you inside the grow room, back at you with another question and answer video. Huge thank you to everyone out there who is helping the channel out, smashing the like button, leaving comments, leaving questions, hitting that bell notification button. It's really helping a lot, and the channel is picking up a lot of steam and growing a lot faster now. So let's keep it up, guys. Let's try to get another 1,000 likes on this video. Let's set that as the goal. And also a reminder, I don't make any AdSense money on these videos at all. So if you want to help support the channel and you're interested in getting a new LED light for your grow room, I can hook you up with discount codes for optic LED. And if you need help choosing which optic LED would be best for your grow room, I can help you do that too. You can contact me at drautoflowerled@gmail.com or at drautoflower on Instagram. You can shoot me a message there and I will help you out as best as I can. And also I want to give you guys a heads up. I got a new mushroom video out on my MushLoven channel. I'll be putting a link down below in the description and comment section, so go check it out. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the questions and answers. Alright, we've got a question from Bill. He says, first time grower, is Northern Lights any good? I want a plant that's fast, small pots, and also does not smell. Just for personal use, no need for more than 4 ounces. Can you use a small container? So the first question, is Northern Lights any good? It could be. I would definitely do some research and see if people are doing some really good quality growing with it. I don't know what breeder you're using because you didn't really mention it, but I always recommend doing some research, see who else is growing that strain, and ask them if it's any good. If lots of people say it's a good strain, then that's usually a good sign. If there's a few people saying it's not that great, then yeah, that's usually a red flag for me. The smell, that's another thing I would be asking other growers of that strain, if it actually smells or not. Sometimes when you look at descriptions on plants on breeders' info pages and stuff, it'll say if it's like really smelly or not too smelly. But if there's any that say it's really smelly, then I'd probably stay away from them. And your last question about the small pots, is it good to use small pots? I personally don't recommend it. I don't recommend anything lower than 3 gallons. That's probably as low as I would go. I would normally recommend 3 to 5 gallons for autoflowers. That's just what they grow best in. You could do smaller, but you're probably going to get smaller yields. Pizzaman says, I'm using high pressure sodium and metal haloid bulbs to grow autoflowers. When should I change from metal haloid to HPS? If you really want to use those kind of bulbs, then I would probably switch it up at like week 3 and a half, then probably switch over to HPS. Back in the day I did grow with HPS and I would just use it the whole way through. No need to switch between them if you wanted to do that. I had pretty good results doing it this way. But if you really want to, metal haloid is better for veg. So going up to like week 3 and a half is probably where I would stop using them and switch over to HPS. That being said, ever since I switched to LEDs, I would probably never go back to HPS. The results I get is better, and the environment you get with growing with them is just much easier to deal with. Vic7872 says, terrific video. Thank you for educational information. When germinating autoflower seeds, is it necessary to pH the water soaked in paper towels, or is distilled water a safe alternative? I understand the importance of pH during grow cycle, but I wasn't sure about the initial germination period. Thanks for your dedication and helpfulness of growers and especially newbies. So that's actually an interesting question, because I don't think I've ever heard that before. So the short answer is no, I've never pH'd water to germinate seeds. So I have just used tap water in the past, no problem. Also I've used Brita filter water in the past, no problem. That's pretty much what I use. My seeds pop in within a day, maybe a little over a day sometimes, like maybe 30 hours, but they pop very fast. And from what I've seen in the past, that's probably the fastest way I do it. I put my paper towel on somewhere like a little warm, like maybe under a TV or maybe on top of a fridge, just so it has a little warmth, and it really helps speed up the process, it seems. I personally wouldn't worry about pH in your water at all, so no need to worry. Shane Folks asks, my question is this: what brand is more stable seed-wise, or even what would be the best strain for beginners? I've started with White Widow crossed with Big Bud from female seeds. So far they have grown tall, so these genetics don't seem stable enough to be autoflowers, but I've been able to track what mother they came from, also an autoflower. But is this really as stable as it gets? So personally, I have not seen much from that breeder, so I would be a little cautious with them. This breeder you mentioned is definitely not well known in the autoflower industry or known to have super stable genetics, or people would have mentioned them a lot before. This is why I recommend sticking with well-known good breeders who put out good stable genetics and allow people to just grow without worried about, you know, having issues like that. My go-to breeder that I always recommend is Mephisto. That is probably some of the most stable genetics out there. I would definitely recommend going to the video I just made like 2 weeks ago and watch that. I talk about genetics and which I recommend, and then go down into the comment section and see what everyone's saying is their favorite and most stable breeders. So some of the other ones that people really mention that is really good to check out is like Night Owl, Ethos, Dutch Passion is another one too. Also, I've heard some really good things about Rockbud Inc. And a breeder that I always used to recommend back in the day and used to have awesome results with was Short Stuff. These breeders should have all good, stable genetics and shouldn't give you guys any issues. Merch Grows asks, do you think autos bred only indoors should be marketed for outdoor grows? I noticed this with many cold, wet weather resistant strains, fast buds among others. It's big letdown when these resistant strains get moldy after one rainy day. So this is probably a really good question, and it kind of touches on how some seed companies just put stuff out there and they're probably not even testing it. Like I said before, fast buds is kind of hit and miss with me. I'd be willing to try it again, but I've had some issues with fast buds in the past. I had some good strains in the past, but I think there are some breeders who are doing what you're saying they're doing, is just growing indoors and then just saying, oh, it's good for outdoors and wet season and stuff. If you're looking for very specific traits like this, I would say only stick with very well-known brands, very reputable brands like the ones I just mentioned in the other question. You would want to look through what Mephisto or Ethos or maybe Dutch Passion and some of those guys I already mentioned, and you would want to look for which ones actually say that they're have those traits, and then I wouldn't stop there. I would do more research and looking into people who actually grown these outdoors. And if they had any issues like that, I would try to reach out to them, ask them questions like if they had any issues, did they run it during like wet season, what happened. Forums can be great for this kind of stuff. You can find outdoor growers who's growing what you're probably growing and reach out to them. But I'm sure some of these not so stable breeders probably just put stuff out and just like, oh yeah, that it has this trait. They could just be marketing it as that. So yeah, you got to watch out for that. King Quasi asks, my question to you is I'm using Fox Farm Ocean Soil and I also have your nutrient schedule chart that you made. Would my plants be getting extra nutrients seeing as Fox Farm Soil already has nutrients in it, or will it be okay using your nutrient chart with my soil? My seeds popped on December 11th. So this is why I recommend going with like a ProMix HP or something like that. Something that doesn't have nutrients already in it, because then you get to decide what nutrients you give throughout the grow. If you go with a soil like that already has nutrients, then you're kind of at the whims of that soil pretty much. So I'm not sure what to tell you. Your best bet is to read the plants and see if they actually are looking hungry, if they're looking over fertilized. Maybe if they're looking hungry, maybe it's okay to feed them a bit. I would probably do like half of what I was saying in the schedule just to be sure. But I could see autoflowers running into issues if you're already using soils that have nutrients and then you add more nutrients on top of that. It could be too much for them. It could be stressful for them. So personally, I would probably ask around to other autoflower growers who are using that soil, what their recommendations are. Do they feed them? Do they don't feed them? My nutrient schedule is for mediums that don't have nutrients already in them. ProMix has a tiny bit of nutrients just to get seedlings by for the first 2 weeks or so, and then you have to put nutrients in it to keep them going. But other soils like that can be hot. But other soils, like you mentioned, like the Fox Farm, I've heard can run hot sometimes, which means it has maybe a little bit too much nutrients in it sometimes. So yeah, definitely be cautious on that. Ask around other people who grow with autos with those and see what they do. Julius Pepperwood says, I have well water. It has a lot of calcium in it and other hard minerals that will build up on the faucet. Even if the pH is balanced, are those minerals beneficial for the plants or is it a disadvantage? I personally can't say for sure. I don't really know what's in your well water. I do know at my parents they have well water too. It could be different from yours. It's more of a soft well water, but also it doesn't seem to be as good with growing plants as like regular water. that you would get from like a city or whatever. But I would say just test it out, see if you can grow like some with that well water and then some with another source of water. I don't know what else water you get, if you can like get it in from a town or something. I would say experiment a little, see which one works best. I would say do around with the well water and whatever other source of water you can get, and just see what comes out best, which ones grow better. If you see the well water ones growing just fine, then I would say just go for it and you can just use that. If not, if you run into issues and stuff, then maybe you'll have to use some other source of water. Ron Burgundy asks, hey doc, can you please answer my question? I was trying to train my plants and ended up breaking one of the leaves. What should I do? It's still dangling there and my plants are 3.5 weeks old, autoflowers. Personally, if I broke a leaf and they're around that age, I probably wouldn't worry about it too much. That can happen with leaves, they can break off, and yeah, it's a little bit annoying, but they'll grow more. But one leaf is probably not something I would be worrying about. It's not like a branch or anything. If it was a branch that was broke, then I would probably tie that up, tape it up and stuff. I've done that before with other branches where I broke it, then I put a little like plastic around it, then tape it up so the tape's not going into the plant or anything, but it helps keep it sturdy. But that's a branch, so a leaf, I probably wouldn't worry about it as much. And just let it do its thing, and it should heal up fine. I would say probably be a little more gentle around that age with the plants, with autoflowers. Maybe wait till week 4 or so, just so we have more growth to work with and a bit taller plants to work with. Maybe it's a little bit easier. But I would just see that as a learning experience, just learn from it. Try not to be as rough with it in the future, and I think you'll be just fine. Felix Klein asked, do you know any other good auto breeders? I use Barney Farms, Dutch Passions, and Royal Queen. So if you listened to my earlier question, I went over this, and definitely go back and check that out. But Mephisto, Ethos, Night Owl, Rockbud Inc. Lots of people have vouched for these, and I've seen some awesome grows with them, so that's usually a great sign that these are good, stable genetics. So I would probably recommend those. My go-to one that I always recommend is Mephisto. You shouldn't ever have a problem with them, and usually always fire genetics. Alex Mitros asks, are autos potent enough? Yep, they are definitely strong enough. If you got some good genetics, they are definitely on par with photoperiods. Some of my autoflowers can come out as the most frosty, dankest looking nugs out of my whole garden, even compared to my photoperiods. So they can definitely hold their own, especially in bag appeal. The good stable genetics nowadays out of good breeders is really up there with some of the best photoperiods. It may not be the super strongest out there, and like I mentioned before, genetics is a big factor of this. Starting off with good genetics is half the battle. If you can find some good potent genetics, you're going to be pretty much good to go, I'd say. My Mephisto genetics that I harvested recently definitely is some of my dankest stuff I have on hand right now. So yeah, you can definitely get some very potent autos. And of course, check out the breeders that we've been talking about recently in this video. Kushments asks, how do you deal with nutrient burn with autoflowers when you're using dry amendments? How do you flush and take care of it? That's one of the issues with using dry amendments, I found, because like you really have to be cautious and know exactly what you're giving them and be sure that it's not going to cause issues. Because when you're giving dry amendments, there's not much you can do to fix a problem like that if you give too much. That's why it might be better, if you don't know if your genetics are good, maybe go a little light on the nutrients for the first round anyways, just to see how they take. But pretty much once you give the dry amendments, that is pretty much it. They'll need to process through it, and it'll take about a month to process through it. So it's not like bottle nutrients where you can just flush the plants through. I think you just have to let them do their thing, and if it's too much, then it's too much, and you gotta learn your lesson and try not to do it next time. This is another reason why I kind of stopped using dry amendments. Like it can be a little touchy if you don't give exactly what they need. If you end up giving a little too much to the plants, then yeah, you could run into issues like that, and that's not good. So yeah, I would say if you're new to the strain, give a little bit less than you normally would, just to see how they take and see how they react to it. But you can't really just flush them out. And same with near the end of harvest, you can't just really flush that nutrients out. You just let it do its thing. And because it's not salt-based, you can't just flush it at the end of the harvest. You just give it normal waterings and harvest when you need to harvest. All right, we'll do a last question here. Will Law asks, is it better to keep your grow tents closed or can I leave it open? I actually personally leave mine open when the lights are on, and then when I turn the lights off, I kind of close it up a bit. I don't even really close it up fully. I don't really care about light leaks or anything like that, because autoflowers shouldn't have any issues with light leaks if they're good stable genetics. Personally, I find it just helps get new air in there, make it so it's not so hot in the tent, because the more enclosed your tent is, the more heat will build up, making it harder for your fans and your outtake fans to move that heat out. So I just leave mine open, but everyone's different, so just see what works best for you. One last one here. Kush Mints asks, can you use advanced nutrients with organic dry amendments with Autoflowers? I believe I have done this before. I looked it up and you can do that. But I would just be a little careful on how much you're giving. Probably just give a small amount if they're looking like they need some feeding. You don't want to push them too hard or anything like that. So yeah, be a little cautious with it, but it can be done, and I had some decent results with it. So I think we're going to wrap it up here with the questions and answers. Thank you all for watching this episode. Make sure you smash that like button. Leave a question if you want to get a question on the next episode. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe for more and hit that bell notification. It'll notify you when I got new videos out. And that's it for now, guys. So thank you all for watching. Until next time, peace out. Catch you guys later.